Are we headed for another disaster in the secondary market as inflation starts to flare up again? As governments around the world wrestle with inflation still and try to slay that beast, it looks like it's not done yet. We have increased consumer prices, but lower consumer dollar spending, and that means we're probably in for a world of hurt. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel today. We have a lot to go over. I wanted to start things off by going over what is inflation. Inflation is a rise in prices, which can be translated as a decline of purchasing power over time. The rate at which purchasing power drops can be reflected in the average price increase of a basket of selected goods and services over a period of time. The rise in prices, which is often expressed as a percentage, means that a unit of currency effectively buys less than it did in prior periods. Inflation can be contrasted with deflation, which occurs when prices decline and purchasing power increases. Okay, so we get it. Your paycheck doesn't go as far as it used to go. And that means you guys out there are being probably more selective with how you spend your money. I mean, you gotta pay for food, you gotta get your kids to daycare, you have to go ahead and make sure the car is maintained, and that means you're probably being a little more selective on your discretionary spending, and that includes Magic the Gathering. Do you know what happens when there's a reduction in the desire for Magic the Gathering? When people just say, I'm not going to go to that F&M. I'm not going to show up at the local pre-release. I'm still mad at Wizards. I'm going to skip out on this. No more fireside chats. I don't want the hoopla. Yeah. Decreased consumer demand for those products. And that means your LGS, who still has to pay for utilities, they probably had to pay their staff more because it was pretty hard to keep their staff. I mean, there's a whole issue with like getting good workers in the workplace right now. So that LGS probably had to keep those people around. It means it probably offered them more money. You also have other issues like your rent, taxes, internet. All these things have gone up way more than the margins they can charge for those products. And that leads to a whole secondary set of problems with all of the products they sell. Not just the new ones that have inflated prices now from Wizards of the Coast, who probably recognizes that they've got lower demand for their products, so they jack the prices up a little bit more. And yeah, they back down from some, like March the Machine's Aftermath, when they saw the negative reaction they were getting from players, and the massively reduced pre-sales at a lot of stores. That's right, zero. Some stores have no pre-orders. Nobody's touching Aftermath. That's a whole separate subject, we'll get there. We are talking about how this will affect you going forward. When you look at the marketplace and where you're in, and the fact that Magic naturally does not have liquidity and some of these stores have to raise capital, well, that's led to a secondary issue such as this. You will see more sales. And these sales will try to entice you to buy. This is face-to-face games here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and they've put a sale out. This is not the first time they've done this in the last year. Some people just didn't remember the first ones. But they are putting a lot of their high-end items, mid-level items, and lower-end, all reserve list, all power, all kinds of fancy foil cards. And they're knocking it off 15%. I'll tell you right now, 15% doesn't scratch the surface of most players' minds as a deal. Because Magic cards, especially power and reserve list, the value is in the eye of the beholder. And although inflation is out there, and players have reduced, capacity to buy these things, not everyone is in that same boat. Some players have very secure jobs or tons of savings. They can outlive the storm. They've already paid things down. They're very nostalgic. They might bite on some of these items if the sales dip low enough. I took a look at most of the deals they offered, and personally, I was not enticed by anything there. And I consider myself a fairly well-rounded and stable individual. I pay for my mortgage. I keep, my job's kind of recession-proof. It's interesting to watch it happen because that store is probably kind of hurting for cash. I haven't heard anything otherwise right now. I can't speak to all the other stores out there, but I've got a general feeling that some of the LGSs are having difficulties still paying for everything and keeping the doors open. A brick and mortar store has a lot of expenses that most people don't consider. And with that reduced demand, comes increased pressures on the business to come up with the capital it needs to stay open and kind of weather the storm. And all that inventory they've built up over the years, they're forced to liquidate at better prices than they normally would want to. When you take a look at some of those cards and you see some of the prices out there, you can see how things have been reflected over the last couple of years. In 2018, when Dominaria was released, you could find a near mint unlimited Black Lotus raw for $9,000 Canadian. The lowest price you would find for a heavily played copy was $5,900 Canadian. Now, when we jump ahead and you look at 2021 during the buyout craze, an unlimited near mint Black Lotus was $21,000 Canadian. In 2022, it jumped up to $24,000 Canadian, and in 2023, it has lost ground month after month and has dropped down to $16,000 Canadian for a near mint copy. Now, I use the Black Lotus as the example because it's one of the highest end cards out there. I chose the unlimited one because that's the one that saw the most action. But no card is immune to the price erosion of the buying dollar. These products, these commodities, serve no purpose other than enjoyment. So they are the first thing to be eroded in value when things go badly. And when inflation creeps in like this, when it slowly inserts itself in, and you have no choice but to deal with it, your discretionary funds are going to be diverted to the high priority items in your life. Everyone has a different family dynamic. Everyone's got different working situations. Your LGS is trying to struggle to stay alive, so are you. Now, because everyone does have a different dynamic though, some people actually benefit from inflation times like this. They can consolidate power, they can buy these cards and sit on them because they have the wealth, the resources to sit on these for a longer period of time. Weak hands fold. Stronger hands prevail, and it actually perpetuates a strengthening of that person's position because when the times get better, they can capitalize on that. The worst part about it is the price erosion that we face with inflation. When you buy a card like Gaia's Cradle, here in Canada, $1,600 a year and a half ago. Top end dollar, near mint, beautiful. Not graded, but just beautiful near mint. Could be gradable. And now that same card is $1,200 near mint, which means if you bought one a couple years ago, you've already lost 50 to 70% in value because if you can find a store that is going to buy that cradle from you, they've got to take the carrying cost, they got to take the risks. They're only going to pay you $500-600 top end. Smaller stores, they probably won't even offer you cash, they'll offer you trade. Or a little bit of cash and a little bit of trade. That's the whole thing about Magic. It's in the eye of the beholder what somebody is willing to pay. And when the times are good and everyone's like, oh, that card's worth it, I'm going to buy it. But when the times get rough and you say, why did I buy that card? It can be difficult to justify sometimes why you did something. But remember, it's a hobby, it's for enjoyment. And that means temptation will always be there for hobbies that you find enjoyable. Not just old vintage cards or nice fancy foils that Face to Face is selling, but think about a couple of weeks ago where I did the video and in the live stream about Face to Face selling Streets of New Capenna boxes for $79.99. Quite the discounted price, right? It isn't just that Face to Face got a deal and they're trying to raise capital, but the distribution network probably had excess of supply who probably got it from Wizards of the Coast. The same as an Amazon dump, it just trickled down the supply chain. Because right now, all of those businesses are trying to find ways to raise capital, to get into our wallets to have us spend money. And they will continue to cut prices until they find that price that players, the consumer, find acceptable. That can be for singles cards, that can also be for sealed product. But hobby things like this always have a hard time when inflation strikes because it's a discretionary spending item and not everyone has to do it. And some people can just cut off the valve and say, I'm not touching it. Some who have more of a gambler's feel may be tempted to buy some of these boxes. And of course, strong positions will really suck up some of the good deals that are out there because they can sit on it for a very long period of time. It's just one of those cycles that comes along. And as long as you recognize it and realize there's always another deal, you probably won't be too susceptible to falling for some of this stuff. And it's not that it's not a great deal. There's great bargains out there right now, but everyone's offering them. Anything from Alpha Investments selling draft boxes at a good price because he probably got a supply that was left over from distribution and they had to clear it off the books, you probably got a great deal. All the way down through your local LGS level if they managed to get their hands on some of these products being offered to them, assuming they had the cash flow and supply. And that can go back to singles, be it vintage and legacy stuff that they happen to have in stock, but even newer cards could go on sale and more discounts could come because they got to find a way to get you to spend what little cash you do have available to keep their businesses alive. Keep that stuff in mind. Hobbies can be tempting, but disaster happens that way. And everyone's just trying to find a way to weather the storm and get through. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. I really hope this video you found informative, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's comments in the comments section, letting me know how this inflationary stuff is still affecting you out there. You know, I hope everyone's making it through okay, but I know how difficult it can be. Thanks a lot for tuning in today to the channel. If you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button, join in the fun, turn on your notification bell. There is a new video each and every day for you guys to enjoy. To the amazing patrons out there who support this channel each and every day, the patrons make it happen, guys. Without them, this channel would not be doing what it does. Would not be reporting on all these things for you. So thanks again to the fantastic patrons of MTG Moxman. I had to jump on the end of that. MTG Moxman. I was running out of time on the speaker thing. I was like, oh! Anyway, welcome back to the end of the video. Yeah, I know, first world problems, right? And I mean it. For all my patrons out there, guys, who support this channel, seriously, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be putting in the time and effort, the research it takes to do these videos if you guys weren't here. I would have just gone and got a different part-time job. And it's not that I don't love what I do. It's that we all do it together that really makes it fun. So thank you again, everyone. In case I don't say it enough, thank you. You're awesome. Now, to everyone else out there, and I mean everyone, I can see you over there, times do get better. And I don't like the fact that a person already has a stronger hand can take advantage of those who are weaker. It's the nature of the beast, though. It's the adapt or die. And some people cannot adapt quick enough, and that's why other people get to take advantage of it. It's crazy stuff out there. It's crazy to see what's happening. These store discounts, though, not nearly enough to tempt me. 401 offers 10% off singles anyway, so a lot of that stuff seemed to me. And then when you look at places like Harry T, some of their prices are better, some are worse. Depends on which local retailer you're dealing with. There's also smaller stores out there. Three Kingdoms, I think, here in Toronto as well. There's a few. Up North Games in Muskoka. I shop up there a lot. You can check out there too. But yeah, discretionary spending is down. Keep that stuff in mind, guys. Keep your lids on tight and make sure you're spending money where you have to spend it. But because the interest rates are up, a lot of money can be made just by wise investments as well, if you can hang in there. All right. Thanks a lot for tuning out. Thanks for hanging in here. Any questions, comments, concerns, hit me up on an email. Always happy to talk to you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow.